Welcome. If this is your first time visiting the channel, here we tell true stories and explore mysterious topics that are truly worth your time. If you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Now, let's begin. Power and money are among the things that grant people advantages in life. From our perspective, these advantages are usually positive, but in some cases, wealth can become a dangerous turning point. When power falls into the wrong hands, it can turn its owner into a monster protected by his wealth, his name, and his influence. With these tools, he can recruit dozens, even hundreds of people under his control. Our story today is about one of the largest criminal organizations in history, an organization that lasted for more than 20 years. Its leader skillfully managed to recruit some of the most powerful politicians and famous figures in the world. He even went so far as to manipulate the justice system itself, ensuring that prosecutors worked in his favor. And anyone who dared to stand against him would simply have their life destroyed. This case is considered one of the most complex investigations ever, like a spider's web. Every time the police uncovered one thread, it only led them to something far bigger. Eventually, the case was handed over to the FBI, but even after the FBI became involved, the mystery only grew deeper. What was the secret behind Epstein Island, and how did it all end? Follow the events with me from the very beginning. In 1995, there was a woman named Maria Farmer. Maria was a student at a fine arts college, preparing for what should have been one of the happiest moments of her life, her graduation. As was tradition, the graduation night included an art exhibition. Maria was extremely excited because she was participating, presenting 3 paintings of her own creation. Maria was a talented artist. Within the first hours of the exhibition, she sold all 3 of her paintings. 2 were sold for $12,000 each, and the third for $14,000. She was overwhelmed with joy. But suddenly, a woman named Anne approached her. Anne was the dean of students and also the director of the exhibition. She said to Maria, "Listen, do you see the 2 people standing over there? You're going to sell the paintings to them." Maria replied, "But I've already sold them. They're gone." Anne insisted, "You will sell the paintings to them. No one else will be buying your work. Go to the people who bought them earlier, apologize, and tell them you changed your mind." She continued, "These people are very important figures and loyal donors to the Academy. That man is Jeffrey, and the woman next to him is his wife. They are among my closest friends. You will sell the paintings to them, and you will also give them a discount." Maria had no choice but to comply. She sold the paintings for $6,000 instead of $12,000. When Jeffrey found out that she had sold them at a lower price, he told her, "Don't worry, I'll make it up to you." But who was Jeffrey, and what was his story? Jeffrey Epstein was known as an extremely wealthy man, yet no one really knew how he made his fortune. He was a generous donor to universities and research centers, and he maintained close relationships with numerous famous figures, including Prince Andrew of Britain and former US President Bill Clinton, among many others. He surrounded himself with beautiful women as a form of status and display. His name was often mentioned, yet no one truly understood what he actually did or how he operated. He was a mysterious figure, introverted, avoiding unnecessary attention. He dressed simply, didn't bother showing off, and rarely visited luxury restaurants. Jeffrey Epstein fascinated people for one reason above all else: he thrived on mystery. Jeffrey was extremely private about his personal life, and very little information ever surfaced about him. The most prominent name linked to him was Ghislaine, his wife. Ghislaine was the complete opposite of Jeffrey in many ways. She was highly social, cheerful, more attractive than him, and naturally charismatic. She was also the one who managed Jeffrey's relationships and appointments, essentially acting as his personal manager. Ghislaine first met Jeffrey in New York shortly after the death of her father. Her father had been an important figure in England, a major publisher and journalist, but in reality, he was also a con man. Shortly after Ghislaine arrived in New York, her father died under mysterious circumstances, and his reputation completely collapsed. She had been extremely attached to him. After that, she met Jeffrey, who became a kind of refuge for her, a wealthy man who, in her eyes, could possibly replace her father. Now, let's return to the art exhibition. 2 months after the exhibition ended, Maria received a sudden phone call. When she answered, it was Jeffrey himself. He introduced himself and said, "Listen, I have a very good job offer for you. I've just bought a new mansion, and I need someone to manage the front gate, welcoming visitors, interior designers, and keeping track of who comes in and out." Maria didn't hesitate. She went to meet Jeffrey, and both he and his wife welcomed her very politely. During their conversation, Jeffrey asked her how many siblings she had. Maria replied that she had 2 younger sisters. Casually, she mentioned one of them, Annie, who was 16 years old, studying her first year of high school, intelligent, ambitious, and full of big dreams. Jeffrey seemed intrigued by her description. He told Maria that he wanted to help make her sister's big dreams come true. He offered to take Annie on an educational trip to Thailand, explaining that it would help her build her resume and increase her chances of getting into good universities. He told Maria that he would cover all expenses, an extremely costly trip. Maria shared the idea with Annie and their mother. Their mother was happy and excited, believing it would be a great educational opportunity that would allow Annie to meet students with similar ambitions. Eventually, Annie agreed. Annie met Jeffrey and his wife for the first time at their ranch in New Mexico. They gave her a tour of the property. The place was nothing short of breathtaking, luxurious beyond words. Everything was expensive, and every piece looked more valuable than the last. While they were walking around, Guylaine suddenly approached Annie with a smile and asked, "Have you ever tried a massage before?" Annie said no. Guylaine replied, "Today I'll give you a massage. It will be a nice experience." In reality, it was nothing like that. Annie later said the way Guylaine performed the massage made her extremely uncomfortable, especially since all the doors were left open. She said she had the disturbing feeling that Jeffrey was watching her. But that wasn't the worst moment. The truly terrifying moment came the next morning, when Jeffrey entered Annie's bedroom without permission, sat beside her, and tried to touch her. Annie immediately stood up and told him she was going to brush her teeth. She jumped out of bed, rushed to the bathroom, locked the door, and stayed inside. She felt a deep, unnatural fear. Something felt very wrong. However, she decided not to tell anyone. She told herself that she would avoid him and focus on the trip, hoping that things would improve. Unfortunately, once the trip began, Annie realized a terrifying truth. She was completely alone with them. There were no other students, just as she and her mother had believed. She traveled alone with them through Thailand and Vietnam. While Annie was in Thailand, Maria received a phone call from Jeffrey. He told her, "I will do my best to support you in your artistic career and help you become a great artist." He clarified that he meant painting, not performing arts. Maria was excited. This was a huge opportunity to achieve her dream. Jeffrey invited her to stay with them in Ohio, at his mansion near the home of billionaire Les Wexner, whom Jeffrey described as his close friend. Maria's eyes sparkled with excitement at every step she took with them. She brought all her art supplies and began painting at the mansion. Her paintings depicted young girls, and she used detailed facial and body features inspired by her younger sisters to compose them. On her first day at the mansion, Ghislaine approached Maria and said something that shocked her. She told her, "Jeffrey wants you to give him a leg massage." Maria felt disgusted and confused. It felt inappropriate and humiliating, but at the same time, she was afraid to refuse. She feared they would think she was ungrateful for everything they were offering her for free. After a few minutes of internal struggle, she forced herself to comply, telling herself she would do it briefly and then leave. That decision turned out to be the worst mistake she ever made. Jeffrey blocked her from one side and Ghislaine from the other. Maria was subjected to disturbing acts until she began crying. Ghislaine held her hand and whispered in her ear, "Don't be afraid. Everything will be fine." Maria eventually managed to escape. She ran to her room, locked the door, and stayed there until morning. When she woke up, Maria checked her paintings and discovered that 2 of them were missing. She was terrified. Those 2 paintings contained detailed representations of her sisters. Now they were in Jeffrey's possession. She immediately called Annie and asked her if anything had happened while she was traveling with them. Annie replied, "Yes, some things made me uncomfortable, but I don't want to talk about it." Maria understood instantly. She apologized to Annie for exposing her to this situation and promised she would never have to deal with them again. She told her, "As soon as I get back, we need to meet, and we must report everything to the police." What disturbed Maria the most was the thought that Jeffrey had photos of them, especially photos of her 12-year-old sister, and they had no idea how he might use them. The next day, Jeffrey called Maria and told her that he had enjoyed his time with her and was willing to give her anything she wanted in exchange for her silence. Maria hung up on him. When she returned to New York, she immediately went to the police and told them everything that had happened to her and her sister. The police responded by saying they had no jurisdiction over crimes that occurred in Ohio or New Mexico and told her to contact the FBI. Maria reported everything to the FBI. At first, they gave the case serious attention and promised to take action. Then, nothing happened, no response. It was as if the report never existed. The girls suffered deeply, psychologically traumatized and terrified of testifying against a man like Jeffrey. They felt powerless. After a long period of inner conflict, the family made a final decision. They would speak out publicly. Their story was published on the website Gawker. From there, it reached the editorial team of Vanity Fair, one of the most famous magazines in the world. The magazine contacted the girls, documented their testimony, and then contacted Jeffrey to hear his side before publishing. Jeffrey responded with his own version of the story. He claimed, "In reality, the girls were fascinated by me. You could call it unreturned admiration, and that's why they are making these accusations." The magazine was not convinced. These were not young women, they were children. Jeffrey then delivered a single sentence that changed everything. He told the reporter, "If I don't like the story you publish, it will not be in your best interest, nor in your family's." At the time, the reporter was pregnant with twins. Jeffrey continued, saying, "I see you're pregnant. Where will you give birth? I know every doctor and every hospital. Even if you don't tell me, I'll know. And if the article displeases me, I will make sure the doctor curses your unborn children." According to Maria, this was a direct threat. The reporter was terrified. She finally understood exactly how the girls must have felt. Shortly after, she received a call from the editor-in-chief, who told her, "I found a bullet at my front door." Then the editor suddenly decided to remove the girls' story entirely from the article and publicly sided with Jeffrey, claiming the girls were lying. The reporter was furious. The girls had risked their lives to speak out and trusted the magazine, only to be silenced. Jeffrey had bought the magazine's silence. The article was published without mentioning the girls at all. This crushed them completely. Their effort, their pain, their truth erased. This story reveals the true scale of power and influence we are dealing with. Power capable of erasing crimes, silencing victims, and rewriting reality. Jeffrey bought his Palm Beach mansion in 1990. At the time, he was newly wealthy, not from a rich family, but already immensely rich. The location he chose was not only isolated, but essentially an island surrounded by the ocean, offering total privacy and security. He lived a life most people could only dream of: a massive home in New York, a luxury apartment in Paris, a private Caribbean island, a ranch in New Mexico with a helicopter and 2 private jets. He was like a ghost. No one really knew him, his daily life, or his movements. Yet in the 1980s, he built powerful relationships, including with the President of the United States. They were neighbors in Palm Beach. The president once said, "I've known Jeff for 15 years. He's a terrific guy. He likes beautiful women, many of them on the younger side." In 2001, Jeffrey visited the Palm Beach Police Department and met with the former police chief. He offered a donation of $100,000 to help purchase equipment. The gesture left a favorable impression, painting him as a wealthy man who simply valued privacy. 2 years later, the police would hear his name again, but in a very different context. Neighbors contacted Palm Beach police and reported seeing large numbers of young girls entering and leaving Jeffrey's house. Their suspicions were raised. The police took the report seriously and sent officers to investigate.
The police talked with some of the girls. There were about 4 of them, all over 18 years old. They asked the girls what they were doing at Jeffrey's house, and they said they were just doing office work for Jeffrey. Since they were adults, the police didn't consider it a big deal and closed the case. However, in 2005, the police received another phone call, reopening the investigation. When a woman reported that her stepdaughter had been assaulted by an older man and at the time, the girl was only 14 years old. The police brought the girl for questioning and asked the girl to describe the man, and she described the man as older with white hair, living in a palace, and very wealthy. Based on the girl's description of the man and the house where the incident happened, they showed her Jeffrey's photo, and she immediately confirmed that he was the perpetrator. Since Jeffrey Epstein was influential and had power, and because the accusation was a serious crime like assault, the case was assigned to a special investigation unit, which operated covertly. They conducted their investigation about Jeffrey quietly to determine if there were any other victims besides this girl, because Palm Beach is a small area, and every now and then some rumors circulated about Jeffrey and his house, but there were no formal complaints. What exactly was going on inside that house? Once the investigation began, the police realized that there were more victims, most of whom had experienced similar scenarios, which I'll tell you about. The primary goal of the police was to prevent further victims, so they started monitoring Epstein's house, airports, and other places he frequented. But they started discovering more victims, and each victim led them to additional victims, and the victim count quickly grew. As the investigation continued for 2 months, the police feared that there might be even more victims. Now, I will recount the shocking testimonies of the victims, which were somewhat similar. Michelle Licata. In December 2004, Michelle was a normal 16-year-old girl. She was an excellent student and had many friends. One day, a friend at school approached her and asked if she wanted to make some money. Michelle was excited and asked what the job was. Her friend told her she could earn $200 for a 45-minute massage. It sounded strange to Michelle, but she thought, why not? Her friend took her to Ghislaine, Jeffrey Epstein's wife, who then drove her to Jeffrey's house. On the way, Ghislaine told Michelle to say she was 18 if anyone asked her age. No one will ask, she said, but just in case. Michelle entered the lavishly furnished house. She went to the massage room, where Jeffrey was waiting for her. He showed her the creams she would be using, and while talking to her, he complimented her appearance, saying she was beautiful. Michelle said she didn't consider herself beautiful and suffered from low self-esteem, so she thought he was just being polite. Suddenly, Jeffrey's face changed. It became frightening. This was how he lured his victims. At that moment, Michelle was too scared to scream or run away. She wasn't sure if he had a concealed weapon or something, and let's not forget her young age at the time. She had no choice but to submit. He seemed disturbed and frightening. She says she still remembers his filthy features, even after all these years. She says she couldn't do anything but cry. After the massage, which didn't go as planned, and other disturbing events, Jeffrey gave her $200 and expressed a desire to see her again. At that point, Michelle ran out immediately, feeling humiliated and betrayed. Many of the girls who crossed the bridge to Palm Beach saw life in a certain way, but on their way back, they saw the world differently. They saw a world of filth, a different world altogether. A world mostly made up of large, luxurious houses and unique buildings. But all that fascination vanished the moment they entered Jeffrey's house, turning into fear and psychological distress. Haley Robson, a 16-year-old girl, suffered abuse that ruined her life. She became addicted to drugs and alcohol and gradually isolated herself from others. Until she met a friend who suggested she work for Jeffrey. At first, Haley thought it was the right way to get out of her miserable life. Haley arrived at Jeffrey's house and climbed the stairs, staring nervously at the portraits and paintings, which were completely inappropriate for little girls like her. Despite her discomfort, she continued to climb the stairs till she reached the room. But Haley was stronger than Michelle, and she was able to refuse Jeffrey's demands. He told her, "Okay, I'm not doing anything with you, but for each other little girl you bring me, I'll give you $200. Sadly, she accepted his offer and worked with him for a full year. She delivered him little girls, and he gave her $200 for each one. She would deliver the girl to Jeffrey's house, wait outside, and then receive the money she expected to earn without suffering or being touched. And each time, Jeffrey would come out and talk to her, asking how she and her family were doing and making her feel like he cared about her. And so Haley brought him 24 girls, with each new girl bringing him other girls. All of them were under the age of 18. Later, when the truth came to light, Haley was treated poorly by the police department, as if she was the right hand of Jeffrey.
However, they also considered the girls who were working for Jeffrey to bring in more girls as victims in their own right, whom Jeffrey used to expand his massive network. After months of investigation, the police discovered that this was Jeffrey's lifestyle, who thought that he'd never be caught because he targeted young girls who were vulnerable and didn't know how to handle themselves. We could say that he and Ghislaine, his wife, would prey on them in public places, enticing them with promises of knowing famous people, helping them with their studies, and painting them the path to wealth. Indeed, the girls were dazzled as soon as they entered his house and saw his connections with these people. Moreover, he focused on girls like Haley who had significant problems in their lives, whether they were victims of childhood abuse, domestic violence, or lacked a family altogether. For example, one of the victims had a drug addict mother in prison and a father accused of murder, so you can imagine the suffering. Finally, after 7 months of investigation, it was time to execute the search warrant. The police needed to search Jeffrey's house and gather more evidence. On October 20th, 2005, police officers raided Jeffrey's house, which felt quite unusual. They felt a strange sensation as they looked at the pictures and drawings hanging everywhere, describing the scene as very eerie. They found a steam room and a massage room, and they obtained computers, mostly belonging to Jeffrey, which were crucial for his activities. Additionally, there were surveillance cameras and videotapes that were removed from the place. The police suspected this because in one of the offices, there were outlets with wires but no computers. They realized that Jeffrey had knowledge of the investigation after receiving classified information about it. The search of the premises yielded disappointing results because many crucial pieces of evidence were missing. Despite all this, there were still some evidence left, and the most important evidence they obtained was the detailed descriptions provided by the victims regarding the layout of Jeffrey's house. This meant that they had all been inside the house at some point, describing the rooms and how the house was divided from the inside. What confirmed the accuracy of their accounts was the fact that they all provided the same description. And among the things the police obtained was a call logbook. This logbook contained numbers and names of the victims. Some of the girls were over 20 years old, and they were the ones whom Jeffrey recruited to bring him girls under the age of 18. This logbook was crucial for the police because it contained notes about some of the victims. However, after 7 months of investigation, the police department in Palm Beach was all discouraged due to the difficulty of the case.
They were exerting their utmost effort to reach a crucial point where they could arrest Jeffrey. They were cautious because they knew there would be a strong reaction, and they faced resistance from their colleagues within the department, until they discovered that Jeffrey had people working inside the police department to protect him. The investigation continued, and the chain of victims seemed endless. Many victims were contacted, most of whom thanked the police for reaching out. Some expressed their love for Jeffrey and expressed a desire to marry him. Some victims had graduated from high school, attended university, and shut the door on the police, refusing to talk about the matter altogether. Everyone was shocked that the crimes had continued for such a long time, even years before the investigation began. In 1999, Virginia Giuffre was 16 years old and working a summer job at Donald Trump's resort in Palm Beach. Virginia dreamed of becoming a massage therapist and obtaining certifications in the field. One day, while reading a book about massage therapy, Ghislaine, Jeffrey's wife, saw her and told her that she knew someone looking for a massage therapist and asked if she could meet him after her shift. And indeed, Virginia finished her shift at 5 o'clock and went to Jeffrey's mansion. There, she was received by Ghislaine. As they climbed the stairs, Virginia saw the pictures of Jeffrey with important figures and high-ranking positions. Then, she entered the massage room, and Jeffrey began asking her about her life, which school she attended, and she responded, engaging in conversation with him, thinking it was a great opportunity. Actually, Virginia's life had been difficult since childhood. As a child, she had run away from home and had been subjected to abuse. After the conversation ended, the session took a different turn, which was Jeffrey's goal, with Ghislaine's assistance. As usual, all the victims were young and terrified, unable to resist for fear of being killed or harmed in any way. After the day ended, Ghislaine told Virginia that the interview had gone well and they would wait for her to return the next day. Allow me to surprise you by revealing that she did, in fact, return the next day. Virginia, a victim who had been subjected to abuse many times before meeting Jeffrey,
had lost confidence in herself and feared her life would be meaningless. She was the perfect victim for Jeffrey, unquestioningly obeying any request made of her. They told her she would travel the world and meet many people her age, something she never imagined. They painted a convincing picture for her so they could manipulate her. Sometimes they would sit together like a family, watch movies, go out to places, and engage in recreational activities, all while telling her they would teach her and help her become a famous massage therapist one day. Despite all this, she continued to suffer abuse, contrary to what she had hoped her life would become. She felt like a slave to them, traded off to their political and business associates, as well as those in positions of power. When things turned sour, Virginia thought that if she ran away and contacted the police, they wouldn't help or even believe her. And in that case, Jeffrey and Ghislaine would be able to get rid of her. Jeffrey had already instilled in her the idea that he was untouchable. He told her he could do whatever he wanted because he was in control of the Palm Beach Police Department. Jeffrey did believe that he was above the law and could do anything he wanted. All of this is a far cry from his upbringing. Let's delve into Jeffrey Epstein's past together. Jeffrey was born in New York, specifically in an area called Coney Island. This area mostly consisted of middle-class and poor families. He wasn't born into a wealthy family. Jeffrey was a smart student in high school and graduated in 1969. After that, he attended Cooper Union University and studied physics. However, he didn't graduate from the university. But after that, he worked as a science and math teacher at Dalton School. The question arises, how was he able to work without a college degree? This aspect of Jeffrey's life sheds light on a facet of his personality. From his youth, he had a knack for getting away with things that most people couldn't.
It's unclear how he managed to get the job as a teacher without a college degree, but he was very intelligent and well-liked at the school. In 1976, there was a bank, Bear Stearns Bank, one of the largest investment banks at the time, before it declared bankruptcy in 2008. The bank's manager received a call from the headmaster of Dalton School, informing him about a young man who needed a job and asking if he could meet him. Indeed, Jeffrey went for the interview and was hired, and worked in a profession called quantitative analysis and marketing. The manager described him as quick-witted and capable of completing work in a remarkable manner. If unexpected problems arose, he could handle them calmly. But years later, the manager admitted that hiring Jeffrey was one of the worst mistakes of his career. After only a couple of months, the manager received a call from the chief employee, stating that Jeffrey had lied about the universities he attended. None of the universities mentioned had any record of him attending. The manager was shocked and felt deceived upon realizing that he had hired a liar. Initially contemplating firing Jeffrey, however, upon considering Jeffrey's achievements, he opted to confront him instead. Jeffrey didn't deny anything and admitted that he knew he couldn't work in an upscale school because he lacked qualifications. He saw the opportunity to gain experience from Dalton School. The manager inquired, "Why didn't you inform us?" To which he replied, expressing fear that Dalton School would discover the truth, leading to complications. The manager sympathized with Jeffrey and was convinced, he thought to himself. Why would he fire a young, ambitious man and waste his potentials? However, the manager regretted that decision and wished he had fired him from the beginning. Jeffries continued working and became a limited partner, but after some years, he was eventually dismissed for violating some laws. The manager deeply regretted giving him a second chance, but after that, he began to pave his own path. Jeffrey's name was starting to gain recognition, although he hadn't showed any real success. What did he succeed at? He was a mysterious figure, the subject of much discussion regarding his wealth and influence in the investment world. He was a mystery. How did he amass his wealth, and where did it originate from? The mystery of his wealth and its origins can be traced back to the year 1986. That year, after being dismissed from his job at the bank, Epstein met a man without whom he wouldn't have become a millionaire. Who was that man? Steven Hoffenberg, the CEO of Tower Financial Corporation. Epstein convinced Hoffenberg of his exceptional persuasive skills and talent for attracting people. Jeffrey told him about his previous involvement in a scheme called Ponzi, which aimed to deceive investors by exaggerating financial data and manipulating them with false profit figures to inflate the company's value, and thus luring new investors. And that's exactly what Hoffenberg needed, someone like Jeffrey, a genius in fraud and had embezzled money before. Impressed,
Hoffenberg decided to make him his partner in this crime. Epstein took charge of manipulating financial documents, falsifying assets, manipulating stock prices, and trading shares on a daily basis. However, the law eventually uncovered this massive scheme, leading to Hoffenberg's arrest. But Epstein managed again to get away without punishment by claiming to be a cooperative witness from the Department of Justice, leveraging the secrets he possessed to pressure Hoffenberg. So, Hoffenberg recanted reporting Jeffrey, who had successfully deceived him. After that, Jeffrey met another person, who was Les Wexner. Les started opening women's clothing stores and eventually expanded to buying international brands like Victoria's Secret, becoming a millionaire. Jeffrey got to know him, but it's unclear how Les gave him authority to handle his financial affairs. They became very close friends. People who knew Les said he wasn't the type to hand over his business to others easily. But Jeffrey, as you came to know him, was a manipulative character with a persuasive demeanor. Imagine that Jeffrey intended to take control of Wexner's wealth, and indeed, between 1991 and 2006, he oversaw the sale of shares worth more than $1.3 billion. In 2007, Les announced that he had completely ended his relationship with Jeffrey because he had stolen more than $46 million from him, although he didn't provide further details. Can you fathom the scale of frauds and scams Jeffrey perpetrated, all of which he managed to evade consequences for? By 2007, he had stolen millions, manipulated markets, destroyed lives. And yet, he was still untouchable. Ask yourself something. How does a man with no degree, no clear business model, no visible success control billions? Who was really funding him? Who was protecting him? And what was he collecting that was worth more than money? Because what happened next wasn't about finance. It was about power. And on a private island in the ocean, power hides its secrets. Next episode, we step onto that island.